11 Alive News at 11 p.m. starts now.
And we start with breaking news. We have been watching hours long a standoff in Butts County in which at least one officer has been injured. This is a live look at the scene. The call came from a disturbance in a residential subdivision in Jackson. When police arrived, one person fired shots at the responding officers, but no officers were struck by the gunfire. One officer was injured during the exchange with a barricaded gunman, but we are told that he was not shot. The Butts County Sheriff's Office now speculating the injury might have been from jumping out of a window at the home. Within the last hour, Jackson's police chief now telling us the suspect still barricaded inside and there is a dialogue of some kind between them and the officers. All right, let's talk about the weather. It is a cold night. Winter has arrived with a greeting to begin a new week. I'm not sure what that greeting is, but you better be wearing a coat, a hat, and maybe even some gloves tonight, Nicole.
Yeah, you certainly need all of those, especially if you're going to be outdoors for any extended period of time. These are our current temperatures. We're already down to freezing and even below freezing across quite a few of our North Georgia counties. Right now, 29 degrees in Canton, 26 in Blairsville, 32 in Dalton, and in Atlanta right now, 34 degrees already. That's not even with factoring in the wind chill value. We're at 34 degrees, but with a little breeze out of the northwest at 7 miles per hour, it feels like 28 degrees right now in the Atlanta area. So you definitely need something a little heavier as we go through the next 12 hours or so. By the time you're waking up tomorrow morning, we'll get down into the 30s and the 20s. We're only going to shave off a couple additional degrees from those current temperatures to our overnight lows, but that brings us down to below freezing across much of our area. So hopefully you've already got those pets indoors, as well as covered up any plants that might be vulnerable to the freezing temperatures. But if you don't, go out right now and do it. We have rain chances that move back into the forecast by Tuesday. Our next disturbance sweeps through, brings in some more widespread rainfall as we get towards Monday night and into Tuesday. I'll have that hour by hour forecast coming up.
A man wanted for a shooting which left a Henry County detention officer critically injured and another person dead tonight incarcerated. The U.S. Marshal Service now confirming to 11 Alive that 32-year-old Brenson Bernard Thomas was arrested. He had been on the run since November 4th. A statewide blue alert had been issued for his arrest. He is linked to a shooting at the Haddon Place Apartments. That's in McDonough. Investigators still working to determine what led up to the shots being fired. Thomas now facing 2 counts of aggravated assault charges and stands accused of murder out of Henry County. He's also wanted out of Clayton County for assault and on similar charges in Florida, Miami-Dade County in Florida. The Henry County Sheriff's Office plans to speak more about this during a news conference tomorrow. There are new details out tonight on Sunday's fatal shooting near a funeral home in southwest Atlanta. Atlanta police say a 46-year-old man was found with a gunshot wound along the 100 block of Joseph E. Lowry Boulevard. That is in the Ashview Heights neighborhood. We're told that he had likely been shot a block away near the intersection of Abbott and Parsons Street. The victim later died at Grady Hospital. No word on whether a suspect is in custody by APD. We now know the name of the person shot and killed in front of a southwest Atlanta Chick-fil-A. The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office says Connie Lewis was in a car in front of Chick-fil-A on MLK Drive when someone inside the vehicle opened fire. As for what led to that shooting, that is what officers are now trying to figure out. They know that Lewis and the suspect had some sort of relationship. The pair went inside the Chick-fil-A and then they left. They returned to a Mercedes that had been parked outside. The trial of a 24-year-old woman now charged with murder in what police call a case of citizen's arrest gone wrong is set to begin tomorrow in Clayton County. The murder trial of Hannah Payne has been delayed several times, but we expect attorneys to begin selecting a jury in the morning. Joe Hankey has a preview of the trial ahead. A lot of moving parts in this.
A lot of moving parts. Hannah Payne here is charged with felony murder, malice murder, and a list of other charges. And Clayton County police detectives say she confronted and then shot and killed 64-year-old Kenneth Herring in May of 2019 after he left the scene of a hit and run. Payne previously entered a not guilty plea.
After 2 years out of jail on bond while charged with murder, on Monday, Hannah Payne's trial is scheduled to begin.
Hardworking man, a good grandfather, a good husband.
Christine Herring last spoke with 11 Alive weeks after the death of her husband, 64-year-old Kenneth Herring. Police say Herring was involved in a hit and run after running a red light and hitting a semi-truck on Clark Howell Parkway at I-85, but no one was injured. A short time later, he drove off. According to police, Payne witnessed the crash, called 911, and forced Herring to stop, boxing him in about a mile away. Herring's wife says he was trying to get to a hospital.
Because I know he was having a diabetic episode because he don't just run off the scene. I knew he was trying to get to the hospital.
During a preliminary hearing, a detective testified a medic at the scene believed Herring was having a diabetic attack.
He was disoriented. He was asking what happened, who hit me.
The detective says Payne ignored a 911 dispatcher's order to stay back and then can be heard on the 911 call confronting Herring.
In the background, you can hear, get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the effing car. Then she returns to the phone and said, he just shot himself with my gun.
The detective testified multiple witnesses saw Payne attacking Herring before the shooting. Payne's attorney has claimed Payne was attacked and did nothing wrong.
She stayed at the scene. She got on 911. She did everything she felt she needed.
Payne's family and friends also last talked with 11 Alive in May of 2019 and stood by her side.
This was an unfortunate situation that, turned out the way it did, but not at the hands of my daughter. It was not her fault.
And the Clayton County District Attorney tells me jury selection will begin in the morning. How long that process takes, of course, is unknown, but the DA tells me, Jeff, she thinks this trial itself would take about 2 weeks.
Well, there were a lot of witnesses to this, right? Do we know what they saw? Is that part of what has been determined as of yet?
Well, Jeff, this happened in the middle of the day. At the preliminary hearing, we learned at least 4 people, according to detectives, saw the incident between Herring and Payne. Each of them viewed the incident from different angles. They provided various details to police, so we could assume all of them, or at least some of them, will testify during the trial. Jeff?
All right, Joe, thanks. We appreciate the information. Stay with us for the very latest developments on the trial. You can download our app. Easy to do. You know how that goes. Tonight, Atlanta fire rescue crews spent time in Buckhead putting out a blaze at the Longhorn Steakhouse. That's at the cross streets of Piedmont and Lindbergh Drive. It broke out just after 8 o'clock tonight, and it appeared that the fire was coming from the back of the building. The restaurant was immediately evacuated. Nobody was reported injured during that blaze. Sunday, Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker wrapped up the first week of campaigning for Georgia's U.S. Senate runoff. It came one day after control of the U.S. Senate was officially clinched thanks to a Democratic win in Nevada. And with that fight for a majority now gone, the focus for Senator Warnock and Walker now shifts. 11 Alive's Dawn White has more on their push for votes ahead of the runoff.
Neither candidate for the U.S. Senate got 50% of the votes, with 2% of voters casting their ballot for the Libertarian candidate. It's full steam ahead with a little more than 3 weeks left before the runoff election.
Herschel Walker!
Republican nominee for U.S. Senate Herschel Walker stumped for votes on a chilly Sunday afternoon in the parking lot of Line Creek Brewing Company in Peachtree City.
They get mad when you say make America great again. And I'm saying, you live here in America. Shouldn't you want it to be great? This is where you live at. Shouldn't you want it to be better than anyone else? Guys, we're not a second-rate citizen. We're not second-rate country. We're first.
Meanwhile, incumbent Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock pushed for votes at Morehouse College at an event tied to Atlanta rapper Little Baby's Fall Festival.
Our message is the same. This election is about who's ready and who's fit to serve the people of Georgia in the United States Senate. It's a race about competence and about character.
It is about turnout, turnout, turnout. People will forget to turn out to vote. There will be people who don't care that much about this race who will sit this race out.
11 Alive political analyst Andra Gillespie believes even with control of the U.S. Senate decided, both parties still have a lot at stake for Georgia's Senate seat.
The losses on Tuesday in the statewide constitutional offices certainly were a blow to Democrats, and they would actually want to make the case that they are still competitive and demonstrate that not just by the single-digit margins.
Gillespie says for Republicans, winning the seat has implications beyond 2022.
This is a seat that was, once held by Republicans, so Republicans have an incentive to try to recapture that seat. That makes it easier for them going into the next cycle in terms of trying to recapture control of the chamber in 2024.
The Atlanta Press Club will hold a Georgia Senate runoff debate on Monday, November 21st. Both Warnock and Walker have not yet said whether they will participate. It'll take place in the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios in Midtown Atlanta.
All right, it is clear, breezy and cold. We are looking at northwest Atlanta right now. That is Rome, and it may dip below freezing. Nicole Hartford, our meteorologist, has the chilly details coming up next. Stay with us.